Last thing, and this is a segue to the right fight to make conversation. There was a lot of back and forth over the last few days between Virgil Ortiz and Xander Zayas. Xander Zayas is the WBO 154-pound champion, won his fight in New York earlier, I guess last month. And he has been looking for a fight. Virgil Ortiz went on social media and said, "My team made you an offer. You have until the end of day to accept it." Xander Zayas then released the email between Eric Gomez and Carl Moretti of Top Rank that showed that it wasn't exactly an offer. It was a quasi-offer, but it was a little light on the details. And ultimately, no deal was consummated between these two guys. I'm not going to play the blame game here because I think both sides have a hill to stand on in these arguments. But I'll put it to you this way. This was probably a deal that Xander Zayas could have made if he really wanted it. Is it a mistake for Xander Zayas to not have pushed for that fight against Virgil Ortiz?
No, he's a newly minted young champion at 22 years old. He has all the time and now a title on his side. It's Virgil Ortiz, who's had issues with sickness, with fallen fights, who's now 27 years old and hasn't won a world title. This kid should have been a world champion, years ago. They moved him perfectly. He's an exciting fighter. He puts butts in seats, but I wouldn't go as far as call him unreliable because he's reliable. He shows up, he's gonna knock someone out. But at 154, that's another question. This kid, man, Zayas, should be going back to his hometown. He should be going to Puerto Rico like he promised his mother and his fans. He just won a world title. He's young, he's fresh, he's good looking, he says all the right things. He's bilingual like you're not. And now he has a championship, man. You go to Puerto Rico and you defend that championship. You build that name, you build that fan base. It's one of the best fan bases in boxing aside from the UK and the Americans. Build that fan base, man. You have time on your side. That's what you do if you're Xander Zayas. And shame on whoever decided to put that email out like that, man. You don't do that in business.
That was Zayas. I
know it is. So
Twitter account.
Look, I praise them. Now let me scold that young kid. Let me admonish the young kid. You don't do that, man. Because he has everything from the looks and the hooks and the title now and the undefeated record. He has money to be made. You don't do that, man, because then you can't be trusted in business. Then you can't be trusted to do anything, man. That was a rookie move by this new generation that posts a bunch of nonsense like that. That was a rookie move, and you never do that, man. You don't post sparring sessions if you're a professional fighter, especially a champion, and private messages, especially against presidents of a promotion that you might be fighting for. It's a terrible look, man. So that shame on you on that one, but congratulations on becoming one of the youngest champions in boxing. And I'm a fan of Xander Zayas. I just hope he makes the right decisions moving forward.
Yeah, I think Zayas and his team have the same mindset that you do. I think they'd like to take him to Puerto Rico for his next fight and do it at a relatively low level. They'd still have to take on a top 10, top 15 guy in the WBO, but they want it to be a fight that he's fairly heavily favored in. They want to give him a title defense before, he goes off and fights somebody else. The question is, who is going to pay for a Xander Zayas title defense against some nobody?
Hey, look, Top Rank has the best matchmakers in boxing for a long time. They moved this kid into this position right now. So I'm sure they're going to dig up somebody that makes sense.
I get that. So, no. I'm not saying they won't find somebody that makes sense for Xander Zayas, but Top Rank doesn't have a TV deal as we speak. Like, they don't have an ESPN backing them anymore. There have been some chatter that come October, they will have some sort of television deal. That's the latest information that I've been getting, but right now they don't. So Xander Zayas is kind of twisting in the wind, hoping that they get a TV deal or hoping that somebody else comes to the table and agrees to pay for that type of fight. And I have a theory on that, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. For Virgil Ortiz, it's been kind of a whirlwind last few days. Like, there were substantial negotiations for Virgil to face Keith Thurman in his next fight. Like, Keith Thurman ultimately has decided to take on Sebastian Fundora. I don't think that deal is papered yet, but there seems to be an agreement on that fight taking place. Those two have been talked about fighting for a little bit of a while now. So Thurman's now going the direction of Fundora. And Virgil kind of was left looking around. And the Zayas, I think the Zayas offer was real. I think while the email was light on details, I think it said like 50-50 split, would happen in December. At least that's what I was told. It happened on pay-per-view, which I don't know about that, but it was supposed to happen on pay-per-view. So, that it was light on details, but I do think that it could have been put together to make all sides ultimately happy. But
when you're a champion and you hold that world title, I mean, you have momentum and you have what you need to get the terms on your side. So I believe in that email. It says California or Nevada. Those are neutral states for both fighters. And I just think 50-50 doesn't get better for that. If you're the champion, you would think you would want at least 55-45 or 60-40, 50-50. So everything was there for that fight to be made, and something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. Even you.
No, I do know about it. I know exactly what it is. It's exactly what I said. Like, Xander Zayas and his team want an easier fight in Puerto Rico. Simple as that. Okay, well, like, that's what they want. So now Virgil is turning to Erickson Lubin. And while I was told that fight isn't officially papered just yet, they don't anticipate it being that difficult to finalize. Erickson Lubin was deep in discussions with Bakram Mursalayev to fight him for his title. This is stop with the Mursalayev stuff. Like, I'm not trying to knock Mursalayev, but God, like, he's riding the wave of a Tim Tszyu win, Sergio. I think he's a good fighter. I don't think he's some boogeyman. Like, he knocked out Tim Tszyu. Turns out that's not that hard to do, as we just saw.
I don't know, man. If you say that name,
he's fine. But like, I'm not.
The hackles behind my neck raised like a cat. No, he doesn't.
Man, Stop. Lubin walking away from the title fight, strictly financial. Like, the offer to fight Virgil Ortiz, I was told, is substantially more than the offer to fight Bakram Mursalayev. It's prize fighting ultimately. Lubin taking more money. And Lubin's a good fighter. We've known Lubin. He's been in some tough fights. He had that loss to Fundora. He's on a 3-fight winning streak since then. He's one of those guys, Sergio. He doesn't just talk the talk. He walks the walk. Like, look at his resume. He has fought some good guys, in his career. Fought Fundora, lost. Before that, fought Jermell Charlo, lost. The guys he's beaten: Terrell Gaucher, Jason Rosario, Luis Arias, Jesus Ramos. That was a controversial fight, but he got the win. Ardreal Holmes, who was undefeated at that time. Like, he's beaten some. He's fighting all the guys that you got to fight. So I think that's a tough fight for Virgil, but it's probably the next best thing that's out there if nothing else was available. What do you think?
Yeah, I mentioned Hammer Erickson Lubin. I would think last year as an opponent for Virgil Ortiz, because I thought it made perfect sense stepping up to 154, a guy that's going to meet you in the center of the ring. That fight will not go the distance. It'll be fan friendly, and Lubin is a southpaw. So you want to see how Virgil's going to react with a power puncher that's aggressive coming from that left-handed stance. And if you put in a neutral ground where Ortiz is not going to have the favoritism of the judges, then Lubin has a chance, man. I mean, this is the type of fight where Lubin would have a chance. I would love to see that fight. He's a natural super welterweight at 154. I would want to see how Ortiz is going to react when he gets chin checked by a big puncher in Lubin. So that's a dangerous fight that I think Virgil and Team Virgil, they're willing to fight anybody in the world. But this is a fight where it's like, okay, let's see how this kid's going to react when he gets hit with that big power. Because, everyone that faces Virgil, they go down when they feel his. How's he going to react when he gets clipped? And that Hammer Lubin's going to give him that punch to find out how he's going to react.
Well, he's been down already at 54 twice to a big puncher in Sergey Bohachuk. He bounced back with a very impressive win over Israel Madrimov. I think that was the best win of his career by a mile. So he's starting to grow into that body, and that's why I think his power is going to be more of a problem for Lubin than Lubin's power is going to be for Virgil. The next question, Sergio, with these guys is, are we now destined to get Boots against Virgil? If you look at the calendar, Boots, I think, scheduled for October 11th. Virgil, I believe, being penciled in right now for October 18th. That would seem to set up a fight between Boots and Virgil for the first quarter of 2026. And look, we know that, if Eddie Hearn is to be believed here, and I think he is because he said that so many times, like Virgil or Boots Ennis has agreed to the terms to a Virgil Ortiz fight. Locked in. As Eddie Hearn says, signed. He has signed for that fight. Virgil Ortiz has not. And when I've talked to members of Team Ortiz, like I did over the last few days, that's not really their plan. That's not my understanding of where Virgil Ortiz wants to go. My understanding is that Virgil Ortiz is much more focused on a fight against Errol Spence Jr. And that may sound crazy, but the discussions that have been had behind the scenes, like Errol Spence is the one that wants to fight Virgil Ortiz. He wants to fight him in Cowboy Stadium, and he wants that to be his last fight. He wants a big fight in Texas, and he thinks Virgil Ortiz is the right guy to have it against. Now, Spence does not want to go straight into an Ortiz fight. He's been off for, over 2 years now, since that loss to Terrence Crawford. But theoretically, at least in the planning stages, the plan is to get Errol Spence a fight in January or February of next year, get a shake off the rust fight at 154, and then go into an Ortiz fight in the summer of 2026. That, from the people I've talked to, Sergio, that seems to be more of where Ortiz's focus is than on finalizing this long-discussed deal with Boots Ennis.
If you remember, Virgil Ortiz was, audacious enough to be calling out Bud Crawford. He was next in line to be fighting a mega fighter like that. And then he would kind of swerve when it comes to Boots Ennis. And I understand that because he's one fight away from being the star fighter. And I think if he fights Boots, who do you think's the A-side fighter in that, Virgil or Boots?
I don't know.
Tricky one, right? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. Yeah,
I'd probably say Boots only because he's the unified champion. Then I think he's just as
maybe, but I think depending where you put that fight, Virgil will have more fans. But
it would be in Vegas.
Either way,
it would be a Vegas fight.
Boots
isn't going to Texas and Virgil's not going to Philadelphia.
All right, well, if that's the case, Virgil's going to be the A side in Las Vegas. It's going to be
could be like it's one of those things, Sergio, where it's like, all right, you're the A side, your name goes first, I walk out second. Like,
I get it. As long as they both get A side money, it's fine with both fighters.
They would.
Both these fighters, are on the brink of making big money, and it's a great fight. But I actually like that idea against Errol Spence because look, I'm a guy that fought, two great names, Hall of Fame names towards the end of the careers. It's good to have that on your resume. It's going to last forever. So I think if Virgil Ortiz gets a fighter like Errol Spence, who I think is going to be a future Hall of Famer in Texas, that's a mega fight. And I don't care if Errol Spence is past his prime, which he is, and you can't rely on him because of his injuries that he's had and that beatdown that Bud gave him, which we saw with our own eyes. But who cares? That's the rite of passage for young champions, young lions to face these older fighters, these old lions that have already been past their primes, that still have that name. They still have that recognition. They still have their loyal fan base and will still put butts in seats. So if I'm Virgil now, at this point of his career, he hasn't even won a world championship yet, but because of that popularity that he has with that big power and the willingness to fight anyone, anytime, put that Boots fight on pause and see if you can get that Spence fight for an all-Texas war and showdown. If you can't get that fight, then you better go to Boots, man, because that's going to be one of the best fights you can possibly make in boxing.
I think the Spence fight is what they want for all the reasons you just laid out there. I think for Boots, I think the way Eddie Hearn is thinking about the fight, he wants it to be in the U.S. He wants it to be a regular pay-per-view show in the U.S. I think Virgil's team thinks the money should be greater than that and would probably want it to be Saudi related to try to get a little bit more or a lot more money out of a fight like that. But we'll see. There's a lot of moving parts.
Hopefully His Excellency will understand this fight belongs in the States, So,
that's the thing. Whether it's, Riyadh season or not, we've seen Riyadh season ring cards in the U.S.
That's what
multiple
I'm saying.
cards. It should be.
Out here again, do one in Las Vegas, do one anywhere,
right,
and make that fight happen because big money will make that fight happen. And can you imagine the promotion to that fight? Seeing not only the fighters going at it, because Virgil's not that great on the microphone. He does all his talking in the ring. But can you imagine the guys that do the talking and Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn, a multi-city tour, with a great undercard? Sells itself, man. Sign me up. So hopefully that big money, Saudi money, can make it happen somewhere out this side, and it could be next or soon.
Well,
very soon.
Here's the case for waiting till December of 2026. Let's say that Golden Boy can put together this dream scenario that sees Spence get a win in January, February, and come back in the summer and fight Virgil at Cowboy Stadium. That's huge. Like that, you do that. That's a king-making moment for Virgil Ortiz, with or without a belt that's on the line. For Boots, I think there's a pathway to get that world title. The pathway includes, to bring it all back here, our old friend Xander Zayas, right? Like Xander Zayas, whoever he fights, that's not going to be a mandatory challenge. It's not. There is no mandatory right now for the WBO title. That number 1 spot is vacant. But sitting there, Sergio, at number 4 in the WBO rankings is Jaron Boots Ennis, the number 4 ranked fighter in the WBO rankings. Ahead of him is Josh Kelly, who there was a lot of back and forth over the last couple of days about whether or not Josh Kelly wanted that fight, and Jorge Garcia Perez, who just lost to Xander Zayas. So if Boots wins this fight on October 11th against Lima, he's going to jump into that number 1 spot. And then Matchroom can look at the WBO and say, hey, you haven't ordered a mandatory on this. We're the mandatory. Order this fight. So he can pressure Zayas to either take the fight or vacate the title and move up in weight. Like, so this could all wind up, there's a pathway here, and I hate waiting, and I understand that people want to see this fight. We've been talking about it since both guys were at 147. But, like, if Virgil goes on to fight Spence and beats him, and Boots beats Zayas to become a world champion, does that not make the fight a little bit bigger? It's kind of like this idea with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Like, Devin Haney, if he winds up beating Brian Norman in what's a very tough fight, and Ryan Garcia can come back and avenge his loss against Rolly Romero, doesn't the rematch against Ryan and Devin with 2 belts on the line, doesn't that become that much bigger? So, look, if the Spence stuff falls apart, and I agree with you, you can't really believe that Spence is going to fight at this point. It's past 2 years since he last fought. But if he's serious about it, and if he can get that gimme in the first quarter of the year, and if they can put together a Texas fight in the middle of the year, then I think you have the potential to make Boots versus Virgil pretty damn big when you get to the end of 2026, even early 2027.
In a perfect world, but I don't see Team Xander Zayas fighting a guy like Boots. I'll be a headache.
Well, then he vacates.
Well, look, in the
title's still going to be on the line.
If everything you just laid out, as far as the becoming a mandatory and then having to vacate that fight, that belt, then it makes all the sense in the world, and that's a perfect strategy for Boots to follow. If that happens, then yes, all the stars align, and everyone gets satisfied, and we can have another big mega fight. Man, but you know how hard it is in boxing, especially for the stars to align like that? It's very difficult. So we're going to see what the next step is for the newly minted champion in Xander Zayas. And whatever his next choice is, whether it's fighting in Puerto Rico or vacating, that's where we're going to decide where
fight in Puerto Rico. It'll be a low-level fight, I think, in Puerto Rico. That's my prediction. And then after that, he may be forced to make a decision about whether to fight Boots Ennis. By the way, a Boots-Xander Zayas fight, that's a huge New York City fight. Like, Xander has built up a fan base in New York, Puerto Rican fighter. Boots fighting out of Philly. His fans can just hop on the train. It's a 40-minute ride to get up to Madison Square Garden. Like, that's a huge New York City fight. A lot of money on the table in a fight like that. If I'm Xander, that's
do you really think Xander is going to take that fight as a newly crowned champion?
But he's going to have to vacate. Like, it's either that. Like, I'm saying he's not taking it as an optional fight, I don't believe. But if the WBO, which, Matchroom's been playing nice for the WBO. I've noticed this. Like, Matchroom did not go, bat bleep crazy when Diego Pacheco got screwed by the WBO. I think you're playing nice to a degree. And I think a product of playing nice is that you can get your guy. By the way, if Boots beats Lima, who's a top 10 guy in 3 of the 4 sanctioning bodies, if he beats Lima, he deserves that number 1 spot. He deserves to jump over Josh Kelly. He deserves to jump over Jorge Garcia. So I think that's reasonable to see him make that jump. I would love to see Boots win in what is a much tougher fight than I think people are anticipating. But see him win, get that number 1 spot, get ordered to fight, and then April, May 2026, Boots versus Zayas. Summer 2026, Virgil versus Spence. Let's get it on. End of the year. Good event. Good fights.
Crazy. Is that what you said?
Trying to cut my cursing down a little bit here on the show. So
Have you ever seen Ace Ventura?
Yeah, many times.
Guano. Remember? That was what it was called. Guano. Bat spit. Whatever you want to call it. So there you go. Get creative with your vulgar curse words there, Chris Mannix. Guano.
Well, from Ernest Hemingway to Ace Ventura, you have covered the gamut in quotes on the show, Sergio. So I applaud you for that. And we will be back with you guys at the end of the week.